Hello, hello. It is Wednesday. Welcome, welcome. This is Valerie McDowell, your writer, editor, author, book coach, and consultant. It is another Write It Out Wednesday, and I want to thank you for joining me here today. And, we're a little more than halfway through the first month of the year. How is 2022? It's like, it's still a lot going on. It was like Andre Leon Talley passed away. It was like, oh my God, the legend, and just so many that we're losing, it's like, but we're thankful for the life he led. We're thankful for just the amazing legacy that he leaves and all the barriers that he broke in the work that he did in fashion, in life, in many ways. He even worked here in the DC area at the National Park Service, which I did not know. So it's like, and that actually leads me to our topic today, which is the impact of your story. Isn't that timely? The impact of your story. And the thing is, for those who don't know me, I'm a writer, editor, author, book coaching consultant. I have been working with writing and time challenge clients, helping them get their stories told and their books published. And I have been writing well over 40 years, more like 50 years of my life. And helping you tell your stories is really one of the things that I just have a passion for. And so I just want to say to those of you who are, if you've been talking about getting a book, dreaming about it, you've written down in vision boards and all kinds of things, let 2022 be the year that you get it done. Life is not promised. Every day is not promised. So do what you can do now. Don't keep putting off, I'm going to get to it, I'm going to get to it. You may never get to it. So let's make a commitment that we're going to do those things that have been on our to-do list, that have been on our goal list, that have been on our dream list. And let's get it done today. All right. So like I said, today we're talking about the impact of your story. Why telling your story is important. Because as writers, authors, and even soon to be authors, there are so many reasons we need to tell our story. I've probably talked to about 50 people already this year. And just the stories that they're telling. I mean, people from not only this country, from other countries I've been talking to. And I'm like, how you find me? But the thing about it is, you resonate with people who resonate with you. It's like there's a frequency and energy that's happening that when you go out here, when you put yourself out here, when you go live and tell your story, that other people will resonate to what it is inside of you that they need. That when you hear something that just connects to your heart, to that vision that you have, to those things that you want to do, then you're going to reach out. You're going to say, hey, how can you help me? How can I get support? How can I do the thing you're doing? Or, whatever it is. But it's like you have a story to tell. And I'm doing actually a special on Saturday, January 29th, I'm doing a how to tell difficult stories. I know for many people, how to write those stories that, maybe pull on your heartstrings, that you don't know how to tell. You don't want to offend someone, for instance. You don't know do I put their name in? Do I put my name in? Like all kinds of things like that. And it's like, I'm going to be doing a special masterclass workshop where we're going to spend quite a few hours and we're going to go for it. Okay. We're going to show you how do you put those stories together, because I know that, we don't want to offend people. We're not here to, how do you say, put them under the bus and all that kind of, no, we're not doing that. There is a way you can tell your story and still stand strong, still be your authentic you, while also giving grace to whoever else might be a part of that story. Okay. So I'll put a link down below about that coming up. But the thing is, that's January 29th, so the end of the month, the last Saturday of the month, starting at 12 noon. So for those on the West Coast, you got a little bit of time to get up. And those on the East Coast, you still get the rest of your day. So, we want to help you, learn how to write those difficult stories, okay? So getting back to today, so now some of the reasons we like to tell our stories is because, our stories are as varied as we are. Everyone's different. Your viewpoint is different. You can be 5 kids in the same house, but everybody has a different recollection of things that happened growing up. And so that's the same with your story, how you write your story. I don't care how many stories there are, how many books there are, how you tell it, what you say, your personality, your style, all the things that make you, you. That's the part that's going to be different from someone else telling that story. And so tonight, I want to give you 10 reasons why you should tell your story, okay? 10 reasons why you should tell your story, because the impact of your story is just all that, okay? It's huge, all right? So number one, all right, number one, it is to transform our own lives, okay? That's the first reason I want to say, to transform our own lives. Sometimes we need to sit down and take a good look at our lives, okay? What have you done? What are you doing and what do you do? And is it really working for you? When you sit down and you start writing and thinking about your own life, you can see, what have I accomplished? Where are the places I've been? What have I, done well? What have I not done well? What have I absolutely failed at, for instance? And how did you, change from that? Did you learn the lessons? Did you make some changes in your own life? Because sometimes you can make a change, but if people just have that, well, I remember when, it's like, keep going. You know what you've changed. You know who you are. You know what you need to do. And so the thing is, part of writing is to help transfer your own life, because oftentimes that writing is cathartic, which means that it's cleansing. It's like a great mighty rush of water just cleansing through your whole soul, man. And so writing some of that stuff to get it out of you, because we carry so much during just the course of a day. If you listen to the news, it's like, you hear so much murder, mayhem, disagreement, problems, war, all kinds of stuff. And so you got to get that out of you. If you walk around carrying all that stuff every day, it will weigh you down. You will never be able to do the thing God put you on this green earth to do. And so I challenge you. It's like, let your words, let your story transform first your own life. Because the thing about it is, when you look back, it's like, I did do that. It's like, pat yourself on the back. Because you have to celebrate yourself. You have to celebrate, even if it's a little step, okay? Even a little step is enough, for you to celebrate so that you'll take that next step. A lot of times people are like, I need to see the whole complete picture. I need to know that everything is going to work. I need to do this, that. I need all 15 points before I make a move. But guess what? Life don't work like that. You are not going to get the whole picture. In fact, you probably can't handle seeing the whole thing, because it's all kinds of twists and turns that's going to happen on your way. So it's like, you do what you can do. There's a scripture that talks about thy word is a lamp unto my feet in the Psalm. And literally the people had a little lamp on their feet. It was on their ankle, so they could only see one step at a time. And so sometimes life is going to be like that. But when you look back and see how far you've come, taking one step at a time, you can be proud of yourself. You can salute and say, you know what? And I'm going to keep going. That's the past. I'm going forward and keep moving. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is through our family history. Okay, the impact of your story can change your family history. Black History Month is coming up next month, and then there'll be Women's History Month. And all of these stories that have been shared, they really need to come out. Many of our stories are hidden, have never been told. It's like I shared, I didn't know that about Andre Leon Talley, that he worked for the National Park Service. It's like, what? But it's like, you don't know what people did before they got to do the thing that you know them by. It's like, I worked a hotline. I worked at Bowie Mongers for Pizza, people who know that in the DC area. I worked at Baskin Robbins. I worked at Epstein's for people in Morristown, New Jersey. Okay. I was a gift wrapper at Epstein's department store. So, but I'm a book coach today. What does one have to do with the other? Customer service, perhaps, It's like, so all the skills they're building, you're constantly building on the things that you know how to do. And it's always going to be in the direction that you were created to be. I wasn't created to be like my sister or my brothers. I'm created to be me. And when you get comfortable and solid and confident and that, then just do that. Because that will work than you trying to be and pretend and try to do something like someone else. It's not going to work. You can learn from other people. You can watch how they do stuff. But eventually you're going to have to put your own spin on it the way you do it. Because that's the thing. I remember when I did my first live, I used the walk it out, but I had write it out. And one of the lyrics in the song is like, do it like I do it. It's like, you got to do the thing the way you do it. Okay. And then when you do it, it's your story. And part of, like I was saying, it's your family story. It's like, what has your family done? I have civil rights heroes in my own family. Okay. My uncle, they're forever celebrating him. I saw some picture he was the grand marshal at a float. They got a whole restaurant with his name on it and a chair, all kinds of things. My parents, they've gone through many things, and I'm sure other people in your family. But if you just look back a little bit, you realize like, wow, this is history in the making, and it's a part of my family. So part of writing your story is to get in writing, because if family members go away and they've never orally told you their story, then no one has any recollection of it. So we have to kind of get it written so that we can kind of get that paper, get in print rather, what it is your family's history. Because that's how Ancestry.com and all the other ones that are similar to that are getting information. Somebody wrote something down somewhere. They're finding documents. They're finding pictures. They're finding birth certificates rather. And that's how they're able to get your family's history, because someone took time to write it down, or it was part of a census, or it was a birth certificate in a hospital, or whatever it might be. For those even whose family members were enslaved, it was part of ownership, okay? And they wrote down and they had values to it. So if you have documents like that, that's your family's history. Some of it is not good. But the fact that you're here, it's like you are stronger because of it, okay? So that's number 2. Writing your story shows the impact of your family history. Number 3, that telling and writing about our experiences, it helps us to rise above them and transcend them, okay? That sometimes by writing out your story, you're no longer trapped by what you like. Oh God, I can't tell that. Ooh, if I let, it's like sometimes you got to get it out because you're carrying, like I was saying earlier, this weight, this secret, or, whatever it is, or you've been told, nah, what happens in this house stays in this house. But sometimes what happens in this house weighs you down and you end up in depression and all kinds of other things. Can you talk about that to someone else? Can you share that with a therapist, with a trusted adult somewhere? Because, you need to be able to rise above that. So one, you don't repeat it, because we often repeat and do what we see and not what we know. So you have to learn how to do something different so you could see something different so you can then do something different, okay? So that's, one of the third point here is about transcending the story. Because if the story in your family was that no one ever were able to maybe purchase a home, for instance, you be the first one to do that, and write about it. It was like, they did what they could, the best they could, all they could, and maybe that wasn't possible because of a law, because of, whatever the situation, maybe they didn't want a house. Okay. But whatever it is, it's like if you're in a different place and it's made it better for the family, then you've transcended that story that might have been told. Well, the family, this has always happened. It's always the way it's been. It doesn't have to be. Be that change agent, okay? Be the change agent in your family to do something different. Things don't have to be the same as they've always been because you're not the same, okay? You're different. You've changed, all right? So that's what's number 3. Number 4. What is the impact of your story? Making a difference in the world. That when you tell your story, you don't know how far it's going to go. Okay, you don't know who's going to pick up your book, who's going to see it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever social media you're on, TikTok. Just telling your story. I mean, people have, they're like TikTok famous. Like that's a thing now. That, 10, 15-second video can make you famous, I saw something, my sister was laughing at it. It was about on the Ellen show. She had a 17-year-old, trying to do some tasks that for those of us of a certain age, like we grew up with those things. One of which was folding a map, having a telephone book, finding information in a telephone book, and then dialing a rotary phone. Now, I can't quite recall rotary, but definitely push button. But I think it might have started with a rotary before we got to, but definitely was attached to the wall. You couldn't go far. Okay. But she couldn't figure out any of them. And it was like, that clip of her, like showing the difference in generations in just a short period of time, went around the world, that story. But it makes you think about how even kids, she was 17. So kids, think about who are 4 or 5 years old now, who've never not had a phone that they held in their hand, who never had access to information on their phone in their hands. They not go into library, encyclopedias, all those kinds of things. That was so foreign. They will never have to experience that, but it was like, but when you think about all of those stories, look how it's gone around the world. Like just this little device, like I'm on a little device in front, I'm on my phone. All right. But I can carry it with me everywhere I go. and it can go around the world. Like I talk to people in different countries on this phone. I do. And so it's like, and it's the same for you. What impact can your story have around the world? Like I like to travel. And when I've traveled places, being able to tell my story from other parts of the world, causes other people to connect. Like, oh my God, you were there. I'm here. Like, where are you? Let's meet up. And then you meet somebody else in a different part of the world. So telling your story helps to transform and make a difference in the world. Okay. So that was number 4. All right, what is number 5? What is 5? And we're talking about the impact of your story. I'm Valerie McDowell, your writer, editor, author, book coaching consultant, and I work with writing and time-challenged clients, helping them to get their stories told and their books published, and also making their dreams come true. And so we're talking about 10 ways that your story has impact, okay? And we're on number 5. And number 5, the 5th way your story can have impact is because it broadens your perspective, okay? It's a way to broaden your perspective so that you can see further than your neighborhood, your community, or your culture. Sometimes by writing and even reading what others write, you can see beyond your neighborhood. Like some people never leave. I think I read a stat where it said many people never go more than 10 to 20 miles outside of their neighborhood they were born in. I mean, 10 to 20, like you've never, like for a person like me who travels, it's like, what? It's like, get out. I remember when I first went to college, I would just catch the bus and see where it went. Now, if it got a little scary where it was going, I was like, all right, let me catch the bus going back in the other direction. But the thing is, I was willing to explore. I was willing to see what I couldn't see on campus, and many students, they're like, no, I'm gonna stay here, but I figured out and learned a lot more about the city I was in than just the campus environment. And I was able to get jobs and do all kinds of things and really just learn my way around the city in different means, and so it broadens your perspective when you're open to experiencing new things. And in writing, you're able to share your experiences with people who would never know. Like I love reading stories about other cultures, how they do things, how they eat, how they sit down, how their families interact, because it helps me, gives me perspective like, I wonder if I adapted that, or what if I did it this way? It's like it really helps to broaden the way you look at things, because sometimes we can be limited, or we could be around people who have very limited views on things. And so by writing your story, by opening and sharing it with other people, it broadens their world. They get to see like, wow, I didn't know that she could do that, or this happened to her, or, they may see you just on the 9-to-5 job, for instance. But by writing your story, they can figure out and see like, wow, like this person has added so much value, to the world because of what they do and because of what they wrote. And so sharing your story is a way for you to broaden your perspective. So that was number 5. Number 6, what is a way that you can bring impact with your story? And it is to move beyond those parts of our story that are painful and that keep us bound, moving away from what we want. Okay. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but just want to really, hit this point that writing your story helps you to get past the pain. That sometimes, people don't want to talk about something. People don't want to go somewhere. People don't want to deal with something because it's painful. But how many of you know that, that's the same thing with a broken leg, a broken car, a broken life. Like when you don't deal with it, the pain remains. And every time you get ready to deal with it, but the thing about it, you have to write beyond the pain. You have to see your story finish. You have to see yourself on the other side of it, because the thing about it is, it's like you need to know that my life is bigger than the pain, that what's inside of me is greater than the thing that I've experienced, the thing that hurt me, the thing that tried to take me out, because I'm still here. And so being able to write that story that's beyond those pain points, that's beyond the hurt, will get you to that victory, will get you to the other side, because by doing that, it shows your strength, and it will give you confidence that if I can get past this, I can definitely do this next thing that's in front of me. And so it also builds that muscle for moving forward, because in the same way that if you don't move forward, if you don't ever tell that story that's holding you back, then you're going to be in that same place, next year. So let's tell the story and let's get past the pain. That was number 6. Okay. So we've gone through 6 points here on the impact of your story, why writing your story, just really has impact in the world. And we've gone through the first 6 points. So this is number 7, and this is always a favorite. The impact that your story has is it creates connections. Okay. It creates connections. I absolutely love this part because the people that I meet, even if I've never physically met you, but I met you on Zoom or I met you on Google Meets or I met you in some way. Hey, Rocio, I've met Rocio here. And it's like, it really makes a difference because the connections that you make, you don't know how long it's going to be for. It could be for a season. It could be for a moment. It can be for a lifetime. But because you were willing to share your story, because you were like, you know what, I'm going to put this out there. I'm not gonna be afraid. I'm not gonna be like, yeah, my story's not all that. It's like, there is something in every story, in everybody. Okay. It's like, and there is so much power in your story. So when you tell it, it's like, Rocio, when you talk about where you came from and the courage that it took for you to come here and do the things that you're doing, you and your siblings to be in this new place, it's just like, there's power in your story. And because of that, you have connections with all the people who are in your class. You have connections. And even as you write your story, you don't know who somebody could tell somebody, oh, this book I read is for you. You need to read this book. Oh my God, they came from where you came from. You could be related. Like, you never know. So telling your story, sharing, the words of your life creates connections that could take you even further than you even thought you could go. So that was number 7. Number 8, another favorite as a word lover, that when you write your story, when your story has the impact that it needs to have, it brings language alive. I've had some very colorful, interesting, fabulous people in my course and in the one-to-one program that I work with. And oh my God, when they tell their stories, it's like, I be cracking up. I be like, what? One of my clients, she had a playlist in her because she's like, I had to listen to music, hip hop and R&B when I told my story. So it's like, keeping your personality, keeping who you are, it keeps the language of your life alive. That life is like a rhythm. There's a soundtrack to our lives, And so you just have to find the rhythm. And it's like, don't be afraid of it. It's like, because there's a sound, when you when you're eating something, it's good. You're like, it's good. When you're dressed, you're like, yeah, I look good. It's the same way with your writing. When that was a great sentence. Like, I love when I'm working, when I'm coaching my clients on the weekends and it's like, we're cleaning up a sentence or something. And when we get that, like I was sharing the title with someone, it's like, yes, that's the title. It was just like, boom, it just came. And it's just like, it's that same kind of energy, and it brings the language life. Like, when it's good. Like, you don't have to do nothing else with it. You're like, boom, that's it. I got that, And it's like, and it encourages you to keep moving on because there's power, in the language. Like, sometimes it's not an English word, or Spanish word or French or Chinese or Nigerian or whatever. It needs to be, in that language. Like, you're like, no, it can't be translated. I need it to be said the way it needs to be said, And so I appreciate even that. Or, I'm not, one for having a lot of profanity and stuff in the work, but every now and then it might call for some and it just works, you can't turn on the TV and watch a movie without hearing something. So we're not going to go there. Okay. And it might be something you said when you hit your foot on the end of the table last night. Like, okay, so we're going to get past that. But all the same, it's like that language, bringing that language alive. And I wrote down like, I think Bridgerton is coming back soon. I think it's in March. So for all the people who were like highfalutin in their, formal gowns and their, corsets and cinch waists, it's like, okay, you get to, wear your high hair and all your stuff all over again. But that just really, people love that. They love the language. They love the formality of it all, because people, it's like dress up. And it's fancy places and big giant rooms and big giant dresses and all that stuff. It's like dress up, and people just like, the language of that time, of that period, and also to see the diversity of the cast in that period, that people really resonated with. And so it was the same thing. I remember going to Universal, to Harry Potter World or whatever they call it, and just like being amazed, like, this really looks like the movie. Diagon Alley and all those kind of places. Like, this is, went to the little wand store and the cake place, and I was like, wow. But that yeah, nah, didn't like that. A little too sweet for me. It was like, just put a pound of sugar in it and stir it up and put a little liquid in it and some butterscotch. I was like, but I digress. But nonetheless, it's like, but the language of that time, it comes alive. Writing does that. I remember with the Harry Potter books, when, the next one would come out, oh my God, the frenzy of the kids. Dressed up, ready, it would come out at midnight. They'd be at all the bookstores when there was bookstores. Remember that? But just the frenzy and the excitement and joy from reading a book, from the anticipation, because she created a whole new language. She created new characters. She created just so many things. Yes, Phantom of the Opera, the first time you see something, in a theater, or read the book, it's just like, it just comes alive for you. And so always remember, that's inspiration. Okay, those things inspire you. It's like, yes, to write in a way that it brings that audience into the story, because there's nothing like feeling like you can play Quidditch, or you can, be hiding behind the curtain and know what's going to happen. It's just like, and so when you read these stories, that's why books don't like wear out. They don't run out. Like, you can write 1 million books and there's still 1 million more books to write. It's like books last. Okay. Like, of all the things that have passed on, like, how many versions of a phone have we had in just a little bit of time? Phones haven't even been around just since 1900 something, but books just keep going back. Parchment, just, papyrus, whatever, stone, whatever, writing is going to go on forever, And so that was number 8. The impact of your story brings language alive. It causes childhood stories and, all kinds of things to just come alive in your mind, because the imagination, that's where writing really starts, in your imagination. You can, and I think that's such a powerful gift, that you can write what you see in your mind, not what you see visibly, but what you see, like the eye of your heart and your soul can write some things that you just make up. Okay. So never underestimate the power of language and writing, because it's the thing that's going to last. Okay, so we're down to the last 2 points. Okay, so tonight we're talking about the impact of your story, why writing your story is so key. So number 9, storytelling changes how we view things. Okay, it exposes our opinions and our values. So depending on what you write, like if you're writing a nonfiction piece, it can be like, why you should do life this way. Just boom, this is my opinion. How to be successful in 6 minutes. Whatever, like, it gives your opinion, it gives your value. Why loving yourself first helps you to love others, or why loving God first helps you to love yourself, then you can love others, or anything where you're giving an opinion, you're giving a value, hug your kids more when they're little, because they're not going to want you to hug them later, or they're going to want you to hug you later and you didn't hug them. It's all kinds of things on that. So it's like, sometimes those values, those opinions, that's what makes good storytelling. It's like, always wear red lipstick, never go out the house without heels. That might be now, that might be a different time. It's like, always look like you're ready to be interviewed when you're out on the street. If you're promoting, your business, your service, your coaching or whatever, it's like, be prepared. You never know who's watching. You never know who you're going to run into. Be ready to share your story. Make it good. Practice. Somebody asks you who you are, make sure it's like, hey, I'm Valerie McDowell. I'm a writer, editor, author, book coach, and consultant. I work with writing and time challenged clients, helping them tell their stories and get their books published, which you do. Okay. So it's like practice. It's like those words have power. Those words have meaning, and those words can change your life. Okay. And then finally, why telling your story leaves an impact? People remember stories. That is the part of life that moves us. It's the stories of our humanity. Like, because everyone has story and people have very similar stories, like there's shared stories about, giving birth that women can share. There are shared stories about parenting. There are whole blogs on parenting, parents hiding with cookies in the closet so they don't have to share. There are whole, things on car mechanic and fancy cars and old school cars and muscle cars and flight and dance and dress. And like I mentioned at the top, Andre Leon Talley Dine, fashion, just a style maven, just incredible legend, but he knew who he was and he walked in it. Okay. He walked in that thing. Okay. But it's our shared humanity. We could respect that. We're like, yes, own that, walk that, wear that cape, but if it's you, write that book, sing that song, play that, instrument, or just play in the dirt. If you're good at playing in the dirt, play in the dirt. Build all the mud, dirt, sand castles you can. Do what you do, Don't worry about other people. Do you. It's like, you can be like, if you're going to look at somebody else, look at them to celebrate them. Look at them to be like, you go girl, you go boy. I applaud what you're doing. I applaud your courage to do that, because it takes a lot of courage to kind of step out there and write your book. Like everybody's not going to be an author. Everybody's not going to tell their story. Sometimes the fear of what will others say is greater than you're confident in saying it. But that too can pass. Work with me. We'll get past it. But the thing about it is, it's like everyone, like out of 100 people, only 3 people are going to finish that book. 97 may start, but only 3 are going to finish. Okay. So be part of those 3. You can do it. Because the thing about storytelling is they convey the culture, the history, and the values that unite us. Like I said, they are part of our shared humanity. They are the things that make us people, make us who we are, because that's why when you read a story about someone diving in and saving people out of a fire, or getting rescued out of a mine, or, a child who couldn't walk, because of, an injury or something, being able to walk again, or someone who lost their limbs, but wrote a book or a song or did some Olympic feat. It's like you celebrate that, because as human beings, we celebrate the triumph over life's circumstances. We celebrate the triumph over difficulties that we all experience. And so that is part of our shared humanity. And writing our stories is a way to tell it. Writing our stories is a way to share with the world, like, this is what I was able to achieve. This is what I was able to overcome. This is what I stopped doing. This is what I did. So all of these things help us to be able to have the impact on the world that makes us unique, that makes us different, and lets people know I was here, All right. So that's all I got for you. I'll put a link down below if you want to join me on January 29th for how to write difficult stories. We're going to be talking about that in a masterclass workshop. And so until we meet again, I'm Valerie McDowell, and I'll see you for Write It Out Wednesday on the first Wednesday in February. I'll see you then. Bye.